Howdy y'all, got the Bulldog on the channel. We got a big day today. I'm hoping to have this car done, which if I'm on my game, I can do. Right now it's a tall order. What we got is, I think it's an 04. Yeah, Pontiac Grand Prix. Nice, well, is it a Grand Prix or a Bonneville? It should be a Grand Prix. Yeah, it's a Grand Prix. Nice, clean car. Very well maintained. And the issue with it is that it's very well maintained. She was going to a certain place and they would find everything. Except for the fact that, you know, certain things had never been serviced on the car, ever. But here we go. The only thing they told her is that it needed the oil system serviced due to an oil leak. An oil leak. I don't know. We get it in, we look first at the valve covers. And yes, they're seeping. Not a major leak, just a seep. I've already taken the hose and air hose and blown it all off, so it's a lot cleaner than what it was before. But you can see it's just, there's just enough oil on it to collect dust, which these things were known for that. It's probably had it once in its life already. The silicone gaskets in there shrink up a little bit and they seep a little bit. It's not huge. Back one's, you know, as bad, but it's in the dark back there, you can't see it. The valve covers are not leaking bad enough to worry about, so we included it as an option. Another thing we included as an option was a tune-up, because you see from the numbers on the wires, they've never been changed. They're factory. The car's got 160,000 miles on it. And it's almost 20 years old. Tune-up. Time for a tune-up. We included that in the valve cover time so we could shave back some time since we got to pull the wires off in order to do the valve covers. But that was all included in a revision where it's an option. The main problem was the oil pan. Oil pan is leaking. This one has a horseshoe mount that goes underneath the oil pan. You'll see it here when I get the car up. And you have to pull the subframe and the mount and then pull the oil pan off. And, you know, pulling the oil pan is a 20-minute job complete whenever you get everything out of the way. But it is what it is, you know. We'll pull that down, reseal that, put it back up. That was the main thing. It was going to be $1,700 for whatever they were going to do. And I don't know, they weren't very specific about what they were going to do. But with us doing the oil pan and valve cover gaskets and a full tune-up, it's still not up that high. So we called her and said, well, it needs the oil pan fixed. You know, the oil pan gasket. Okay, go ahead. These other things are at some point in the future. Well, what do you think? Well, you know, if it's something where you're going to get rid of the car here pretty quick, I wouldn't worry about it because it's not leaking enough to warrant anything. Well, I'm going to keep the car. I like the car, so go ahead and fix it. Okay. That's why we are the way we are, is because we don't want to pressure anybody into doing something that they don't want to do. This was an option, and you make it clear with them. This is optional. Do they leak? Yeah, but it's not, we're not even dripping. It's just leaking enough to collect dust, which, you know, for these is fairly normal. But you seal them up and they'll last 5-6 years, bone dry, and then they'll go to doing this again, and then they'll go to leaking. But when they go to leaking, they get down there on the exhaust and they start smoking. There was a recall on them, but they got out of paying that by just saying, we're out of stock. That's it. They just said we're out of stock on the gasket. Well, O'Reilly's isn't, so I don't know. Anyway, I am going to get our homemade engine support here that I got set in between the strut mounts. I'm going to put a hook over top of it and hang the engine. I'll have an extra hook down there to keep some pressure off the transmission. That way, when I go underneath, I'll put my tranny jack underneath the subframe up in there. Just pull the bolts out of it, drop it down. You got to unhook the steering rack, which looks to be brand new, and attach that up into the car. It sounds like a lot to do, but it's really fairly simple on these cars, as long as it's not rusted. If it's rusted, you have a bad day. We'll get on it. Okay, we're underneath of it. You can see all the oil around it. So that's why we're doing the oil pan. There's the low oil sensor. And you look up there and it's wet, but it's not, got oil pouring down off. It's not all shiny. That means the valve covers were not leaking a gigantic amount. But this stupid mount is the reason. Now, some of these cars have a hanging mount that goes on the front of the engine, and under here it's just all open. It doesn't have this part right here. That's nice when you do an oil pan, but that also means you have to take the mount off in order to do the serpentine belt. So there's trade-offs. You don't do this very much. It kind of hurts when it does. It'd be a 1-hour job if it was, out in the open, but it's not. We'll deal with it. The car is by far going to, well, as long as you don't get hit by a truck, but it's going to drive out these repairs, in 6 months. So that's why she wants to fix it. She's just the kind of person, keep it up, keep it good, and it'll last me. If I take care of it, it'll take care of me. Well, that is true. This oil pan is something that needs immediate attention. You don't have any mounts down here to rot out like that last one I looked at. So, that one there, at least it doesn't sit in a well. But it would be one of them that'd be rotting out that mount here pretty quick. It starts soaking it up. So I'm gonna put you guys on time lapse and work on getting all this subframe loose. We got to pull the wheels, pop the ball joints. Somebody has put a steering rack in it. You can see that it's all painted black. So these bolts have been taken out because you have to drop it down a little bit in order to do that. The wiring has to unclip. It is not a huge deal getting this thing out. The very first oil pan I did on one of these, I jacked around for hours trying to get that pan out of there without pulling the subframe. And I got smarter. Okay, what this contraption here is an attachment for this jack. I think it was something that Harbor Freight sold some years ago. They don't have it now, or I'd buy another one. But they also had this attachment. It was sold for fuel tanks. Well, we're kind of limited on height here, and because this stands up an extra 10 inches, it kind of screws us over. We can't get the thing down low enough to get it out from under the vehicle. But it works really good for these subframes. There's no risk involved. I used to have to do these by hand. And what if you don't have it adequately supported up top and you don't know it? This jack will take all the weight of that engine and transmission. Now, one thing I always do, even though I've got a heavy strap holding it up there, I don't have one of them real ratchet straps like this one is, but I always take a strap and wrap it around the transmission up there at the mount, on the back side of it, underneath all the wires, and I ratchet strap it up just to take 100 pounds off of that end of the engine. It doesn't hold a huge amount. It doesn't have to. I just want it to steady this end of it, and it's not trying to dangle down and give me trouble. It just gives it another point. It's a safety feature. I don't like being underneath of one and hearing the strap creakle. So there's that. Okay, now look at how much that opened up our ability to work. I can get all the way around it now. I don't remember if that bolt is slotted or not. I might have to focus. There we go. That bolt is behind the AC pump. I might have to take the belt off. But you gotta take the belt off anyway. I got a new belt for it because it's all cracked up. I might have to take the AC pump loose so that I can get that one freaking bolt out. But I also might be able to loosen it, and if it has a slot, I can just slide it out from underneath. I remember doing that before, but I don't know if that's how it was, because it's probably been a decade since I've had to do one of these. I used to do them all the time. But these cars are, you know, they're getting long in the tooth, so. But I don't even have to pull the starter. It's right out there. I'll pull the covers off, pull this mount out of the way, and we're gonna drop this pan out and get it back up in there. It pays the flat rate. I'll probably hit the flat rate, you know, and I'm not fast. You know, I'm a little bit more particular about how I do things, but it's an involved job, as you can see. But you can also see, I didn't spend any time on it. It didn't take me very long to pull that cradle out. So that is better than trying to fight and pull that pan out without pulling the cradle. Believe me, I've done it both ways. All right, we're ready to pull the pan. Now, something to remember is those bolts up in there. This is the American motor. Yeah, standard bolts. Don't think that they're 10 millimeter, they're 3/8. And on this pan, there is an oil level sensor right here. Take it out. Because if you start to drop this pan down and it feels like it's catching on something, the oil sump comes down, well, actually comes down from the front and is underneath this thing. So when you drop this down, you're gonna hit it. You're gonna bust this sensor. Don't do that. Just go and take the sensor out. Not a big deal. Now, if you're wondering why I'm a little upset, right up in there is where I got to put this bolt. That's not fun. It wasn't fun to get out, and it's going to be worse to put back. Got all the other bolts back in. transmission's in the way, and there's no way to go over top of it right there. So whoever engineered that, thank you. Thank you very much. It didn't used to be there, but I'm glad you put it there for some reason. Okay, between half a dozen phone calls and text messages and everything, I'm finally getting back together. I got that bolt in up there. Not fun. I got the AC pump back on. Everything's put back together. I went ahead and put a new oil filter on it, because it does get an oil change, because we just drained the oil out, why not? And I'm ready to put the cradle back in now. Okay, cradle's all back in, all buttoned up underneath there. Wheels are back on and torqued. So now we're going to start working on the valve cover gaskets, but that's going to be for another video. Like, comment, subscribe, hit your little bell notification, share it all around. We'll talk to you later.